Hey guys, welcome to episode 4 of The World's a Little Lopsided. I'm your host Kalathma, and it's very lovely to have you guys here with me today. Today I'm going to have a conversation with you about books because I went to the book fair yesterday, and let me tell y'all, it was a hellscape, okay? I literally fought to get Ulysses. I will show you guys the books that I got, but I had to fight to get a book. It was literally a physical altercation because that was the only copy left, and I had been dying to read this book since I was like 12 or 13. So yeah, I wasn't leaving the book fair until I had found that book, and I found it. But anyways, how are you guys doing? Feel free to leave your thoughts down in the comments. This is a safe space. As always, I love hearing what you guys have to say in the comments. Like, I read through all of them, even though I may not always have time to reply to them, but yeah, I'm still small enough on YouTube that I can like reply to everything. That's probably not the case on like Instagram, and then like when I used to post on TikTok. But yeah, I think I'll show you guys the books that I got, and I got 6 books in total. That summed up to about 15,000, which is really great for my bank account. My bank account really took the hit this weekend. But yeah, I'm gonna show you only 3 of the books that I got this time, because 2 of the books are with my brother, and then 1 of the books I'm planning on giving to a friend. So I don't want her watching this video and like seeing what the book is. But yeah, let me show you guys. I've already started reading one of them, and that is this book. This is called Herk. It's a book about Hercules, and I started reading this last night. Right now I am on page 39. There we go. And this is as far, like, in 39 pages, I can say so far I know it's too quick to judge, but just for the sake of y'all, if you've read this book, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But for me, so far, this is like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I don't really like the writing, but it's very interesting how the book is structured. Because, how do I explain? It's like the book, every chapter is like a different character that like is related to Hercules. So that was one chapter from the father, and then the last chapter that I read was from the like perspective of Hercules' twin brother. But yeah, it's an interesting book so far. Again, I'm not a big fan of how it's written. Written meaning that I feel like the sentences are too short, and like they're just like too many unnecessary words. But again, maybe I might be proven completely wrong by the end of it. I'm only 39 pages in anyways. So yeah, that's that. By the way, I asked you guys to give me some questions on Instagram about books and authors, anything book related, honestly, and I'm gonna answer those after I show you guys the books that I got. The next book that I got, I will show you. This is called The Song of Achilles. Now, this is a book that I read in 2020, and my mom, actually, when I told her that I had read this, she was like, why did you buy the book if you've already read it? And the answer to that is, some books don't deserve to remain PDFs, because when I read it online, I had pirated it and I read it on my laptop. So yeah, this is just such a good book. This is like 5 out of 5 stars. It's the story of Achilles, the Greek warrior, and this is just such a beautifully written book. I read it though when I was like 14. I'm 17 now. My opinion might change. I have to go back and reread all of this. So I don't know. I'll let you guys know if my opinion changes. But as of right now, this book is really, really good. It's one of my all-time favorites. I very rarely give 5 out of 5 stars to books because I feel like I'm very picky. You understand? Like, I don't easily give up 5 stars because there's just so much that I want in a book, and it's very rare for me to find all of that. But when I do, I'm very like gracious with my ratings, and this book was one of them. I wouldn't say the book made me cry, but the book did leave me feeling very empty and senseless for a while. So yeah, I would recommend this, but again, I was like 14 when I read it. So I maybe don't take my word for it until I read it again, but I'm telling you, a lot of people will tell you this is a really good book. And then finally, and yeah, it's a thick book. The next book that I got is called Ulysses. by James Joyce. And this is a really thick book, as you can see. Do I have a ruler for me to measure how big this is? No, I don't think so, but wait, hang on. This is the size of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. If I just put these two books together, this is what they look like. They're like roughly the same size. Ulysses is exactly 800 pages long. And a lot of people say that this is one of the hardest books to read in English. And ever since I heard about it when I was like 13, I've been dying to get my hands on this. This is the book that I had an altercation with, by the way, with a man. I guess in the end he just decided to let me have it, which I'm really thankful for. Shall I just flip to a random page and like just read a line? Let's do that. Can you hear that? Like... okay, let me read a random line. That voice was a lamentation. Calmer now, it's in the silence. You feel, you hear. Vibration. Now silent air. Yeah. I don't know, that's an interesting line, I guess. Should I have done that with the other 3 books? No, I don't really think so. But whatever, it's fine. That's the 3rd book. And that's the book that I'm the most excited to read. Because again, that's a book that I've been wanting to read for a long time. Every single author that I've ever read about has always recommended that book. Donna Tartt, Margaret Atwood, like everyone. So I'm really stoked to like read it finally. I don't know, maybe I should probably get onto the questions, yeah, because I asked you guys to ask me on... Sorry, my setup is always really weird. Let me just get my laptop closer and then I'll answer your questions. Okay, so I'm back with my laptop and we are going to answer your questions. The first one that I got was, have you read anything by Jennifer Lynn Barnes? I'm very sorry, but I don't know who that is. So, yeah, I have not. Another question I got was, what's your favorite book and favorite author? And I've talked about this before. I made a video about my favorite book on my TikTok a long time ago, like when I was just starting out. When I was just starting out, as in like not... Yeah, like when I was just starting out. It's The Secret History by Donna Tartt. And I think that's a really great book because the narrator, whose name is Richard, he's unreliable. You can't trust him. But Donna Tartt writes the book in a way that makes you want to believe only him. And I think it takes a talented author to do something like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my favorite book. Yeah, I don't know. I remember I read that like 2023 January. Yes, the January of 2023. And it's just a book that I've like never stopped thinking about because there's just so many complexities to that. I feel like the camera is just a little bit too bright, but yeah. Anyways, I think I just screwed it up. Okay, anyways. Yeah, it's a really great book. I highly recommend it, especially if you're into like psychological thrillers or books with unreliable narrators. I don't want to spoil it too much, but it is like not murder mystery per se, it's more like murder in your face. But like, yeah, I don't know, just read it. I'm telling you, it's a really good book. It's like dark academia vibes. If you have watched The Dead Poets Society, you'll really like that. So yeah. Somebody else has asked me if I've read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and the answer is yes, I have. I've read all the books in that series except Killjoy. That I haven't still read. But the rest of the series, the other 3 books, I would say I would give the entire series like a 3.2 out of 5, I would say. The first book was really great. I'd give it like a solid 4 out of 5. That was really great. The second book, I'd give it like a 3.5 out of 5, and then the last book I'd give it a 3. And that's just my personal opinion. I know that there are a lot of people out there that absolutely love the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, but personally, I felt like the last 2 books were very hastily written and I didn't really like them. I just felt like the first book was the strongest contender out of the other 3. But I don't know, I haven't read Killjoy, so I'm not really sure. Somebody else had asked, what's my favorite live action adaptation of a book? Oh wow, that's a good question. Because usually when books remake movies, when movies remake books into movies, no, when people remake movies that are based off books, usually they're pretty bad. God. I'm gonna say Little Women by Greta Gerwig, the 2019 one. Amazing. She did such an amazing job because Little Women, I read all 4 of the books, Little Women, and then Joe's Boys, and then there were like a couple other books in that world by Louisa May Alcott, and I read all of them, and Greta Gerwig did a wonderful job at just bringing the entire story together, and how the story was put together in the movie instead of like a linear timeline, to have us go from the future to the past to the future again. Like, it was very interesting, and that will always be one of my most favorite movies, especially the scene with Laurie and Joe on the hill. If you know, that was such a good scene, and the fact that they didn't villainize Amy at all in the movie, I'm so appreciative of that, because Amy by no means was a villain. I think Amy was just misunderstood, and the fact that she ended up with Laurie was actually one of my favorite parts about the book, because I feel like Laurie was better off with Amy anyway than he would have been with Joe. So yeah, I'm a big fan of anything Greta Gerwig touches, because I think she does wonders. But yeah, it's always gonna be Little Women, 2019. Oh my god, okay, somebody's asked me about Colleen Hoover and my opinion. Ooh, okay. See, I don't usually judge people for what they read. You know what I mean? Like I don't like self-help books, and I realize that there are people out there that like self-help books, and I don't really have a problem with that, because not liking self-help books is like a personal thing. But when it comes to authors like Colleen Hoover, I despise her, because, oh my god, it's, the first book of hers that I read was It Ends With Us. No, it wasn't It Ends With Us. It was this thing called All Your Perfects, and I remember I read that in 2020. Before anybody honestly really knew who Colleen Hoover was, I read that book and I was like, okay, I'm not really a big fan of this, but whatever, I just brushed it aside. And then 2022, I think 2021 or 2022 rolled around. It Ends With Us becomes extremely popular, and I read it, and I would personally give that book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And my feelings on this book are a little bit complicated, because I actively realize that book has helped survivors of domestic abuse. But also, for me, I feel like the book romanticizes a lot of things that it shouldn't romanticize. And also, the pacing of the book was really off for me, at least. I consider myself a bit of a seasoned reader. I've been reading actively since I was like a little kid. There's never been a time in my life where I've like put a book down and be like, okay, I hate reading, I'm never going to do it again, because I've always loved reading, right? So I consider myself a bit of a seasoned reader, and I feel like I can tell when an author puts their passion and they're all into work. Like, here's the thing with art, and here's the thing with writing, right? You can tell when somebody half-asses something, and you can tell when somebody puts like a lot of passion into it. And from what I understand, Colleen Hoover did put a lot of her effort into that book, which is why I just rated it like a 3.2 to 3.5 stars out of 5 and just left it. I didn't really think much of it until It Starts With Us came out, and I read it and I absolutely hated it. Because to me, It Starts With Us felt like it was so like last minute, and I felt like it was just a book that was there to give Colleen Hoover money. That's what the book. That's the I. The ghost of Colleen Hoover is. But yeah, anyways, it starts with us. Just felt like a very last minute, kind of very badly put together book, and I felt like the journal entries in It Starts With Us were just there to like reach the page count or the word count, you know what I mean? So yeah, I hated it. As for Colleen Hoover herself, I feel like she romanticizes a lot of things in her books. Incest, domestic abuse, like it's really weird. There's also a lot of racism towards Asian people. There was this one line about liking sushi and some other food, and she basically dismissed it as Asian food is the same thing, and I was like, what? And then I remember I was reading, I think, November 9, because people on TikTok were telling me to like read November 9. And I remember I read a line where it was like, I literally cannot, like, if the tissue paper isn't folded the right way, I literally have OCD. I'm literally not going to survive. That's not what OCD is. And the fact that Colleen Hoover would dismiss like a mental disorder as something as folding a tissue paper or something is really weird. That's not what it was, but she definitely does reference a lot of mental health issues as just nothing. Like, oh my god, like, I think even with Ryle's past in It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us, it was just used as like how do I say, it was just used as a plot device. It wasn't like looked into. It wasn't really addressed as much. Like there are ways that you should address situations, you know, you get what I mean? So yeah, I feel like she doesn't do a good job at addressing those. And I feel like when you're an author, or really when you're anybody with a platform like a content creator, you have to take some sort of responsibility in how you approach conversations around mental health. But yeah, anyways, I acknowledge that Colleen Hoover's book has helped a lot of DA survivors, and that's not something I'm gonna take away from that book. I just don't like Colleen Hoover, and I don't support her work at all. The same way that I don't support J.K. Rowling's work. As much as I love Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling is a TERF, and that goes against all my moral values. As much as I would love to say, oh, the art isn't, or we should separate the artist from the art, that's not true, because art and artists, they're like always intertwined. So yeah, don't like Colleen Hoover, don't like J.K. Rowling, don't like Tilly Cole. There's a whole list of authors that I don't like just because they're bad people, and I feel like that's a fair enough reason for me to hate them. On the topic of Colleen Hoover, somebody had also asked me whether I recommend It Ends With Us because they have mixed feelings about it. And no, I don't recommend It Ends With Us. I think it does not deal with domestic violence the way a book should. And also the fact that It Ends With Us is marketed as a romance novel is really creepy to me, because if It Ends With Us is actually about domestic abuse, why would it be categorized under romance? That's crazy. At least put it in like the fiction section, you know what I mean? But yeah, if you have mixed feelings about It Ends With Us, I'm telling you, they're justified, because it's yeah, I don't like the book personally. Again, I acknowledge that it has helped a lot of DA survivors, but there's just a lot wrong with the book, especially if you're marketing that book towards kids, which is what I feel like Colleen Hoover is going for, with the TikTokifization. Is that the book Talkifization? I don't even know, but like, you know, because her book is kind of been made, all her books have kind of been made into book talk books, and most of the people on book talk are like teenagers. So to market a book like that to teenagers, label it as romance, and then dismiss a lot of things that could affect mental health is insane. So yeah, it's fair that you have mixed feelings about it. Next question. Do you love horror stories? No, I don't. I'm not a big horror fan. I like psychological thriller. Like, again, The Secret History, my favorite book, or like If We Were Villains. That's also a good book that I like. There's also this other book called My Sweet Audrina. I read that when I was like 11, been haunted by it ever since. But yeah, no, not horror. I don't like horror. Do you have any idea about the Twisted series by Anna Huang? Listen, I don't like that series as much, but that's because it feels like, to me at least, it felt like the plot was like genuinely lacking, and the books were just written because I don't know, because they were written to sell. I feel like it's just like 60% smart and like 40% plot, and that's not what I like. If you like it, then I guess that's fine. I have mixed feelings about people who like smart as well, but yeah, that's just not, it's just not for me. Okay, this is a great question. How's the emotional impact that the Song of Achilles left you with? I think I indirectly answered this when I was showing you guys the book, but the Song of Achilles, oh my god, I read it, I was numb for like a good, I would say, sorry, hang on. It's customary to kind of adjust my camera at least a little bit during my podcast episodes. But yeah, the Song of Achilles left me numb and dumbfounded for days because it was such a beautifully written book. Again, I read it when I was 14. I'm not sure if I'll give it the same rating now. I have to read it because, you know, over time, as you grow old, as you grow up, as your frontal lobe starts developing, your perception of things change. But yeah, it's just, it was a really, really good book, and I gave it 5 stars. So yeah, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna make a whole video about me maybe rereading it. But yeah. Is It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover an okay book for someone who's 15? No. No, it's not. Well, okay, here's the thing. I'm not gonna stop you from reading what you want, but what I will tell you is there are a lot of things in It Starts With Us that could be triggering for someone that young. I think I was also like 14 or 15 when I read It Starts With Us. But I had a very good understanding of what was not okay and what was okay to kind of be portrayed in a book at the time. So I think I can say I survived being brainwashed by a Colleen Hoover book. But that's not the case for everybody, because a lot of people read Colleen Hoover's books and think they're like, that she writes like about the perfect man, and it's like, no, she's not. If you actually read her books from like a bit of a, how do I say, from a bit of a wider perspective or from a different perspective, you realize most of the men in her books are actually very toxic, and these are not relationships that any young woman should be aspiring to be in. But yeah, you can read It Starts With Us, and I encourage you to have your own opinion about it. Please don't, like, if I say I don't like it and you end up liking It Starts With Us, that's fine. What I do want you to do is, I want you to read a book, and I want you to come to your own opinion about it. And I want you to ask yourself why you come to that opinion. I think that's what we should do when we're reading, which is just form our own perspective about things and have a solid foundation of how to think about stuff, you know, like we should analyze things instead of just taking it at face value. So yeah, if you are 15, can you read It Starts With Us? Yes, you can, but be cautious about it. Just remember that the relationships that Colleen Hoover writes about, they're not relationships you should aspire to be in. But yeah, you can read it and just form your own opinion about it. I encourage that. How to make reading a habit? I try to make reading a habit, but I lack consistency. Okay, really good question. I think, listen, you don't have to read a new book every week. You don't have to read 100 books in a year. I think, first of all, that's not sustainable. For a lot of people, that's not even achievable. We have work, we have university, we have lives to live. Like, you know, I think to make reading a habit, you should read books that you, first of all, find interesting, and secondly, care about. And for most people, these books are not going to be romance, these books are not going to be fiction. These books are probably going to be something like, I don't know, non-fiction, maybe even self-help up to an extent. Some self-help books are really weird. I could go on a whole rant about that because I hate self-help books, but that's again a personal opinion. But just try to find a subject that you're interested in and stick with that. And as for how to make it a habit, I would say start by, and this is what I encourage, learn from books. That's because that's what books are for. Maybe you might not always be able to learn from the contents of the book, but one of my most favorite things to do when I'm reading a book is I like to see how an author writes, and then I like to see how I can incorporate that writing into my own style. And I think when we make something a habit, we have to analyze a lot of things, and we have to kind of figure out, okay, what makes this good for me? What makes this not good for me? How do I do this in a way that's enjoyable? And that's what's important. Make it enjoyable for you. Don't feel pressure to read like a new book every week or like 5 books every month. Again, probably not sustainable. Even I don't do that, and I'm an avid reader. Just don't pressure yourself. Just if you want to make reading a habit and you genuinely love reading, you can do that. I have no doubt about it. How to enjoy a book properly and not be distracted by other things. See, again, find a book that you find interesting. Find a topic that you're interested in. Just even if it's like non-fiction, that counts as reading, yeah? And don't feel pressure to enjoy every book that you come across. Not every book is great. You don't have to like every book you read. That's I feel like that's a thing that people believe. But yeah, no, you don't have to believe that. If you don't want to be distracted by other things, like if loud noises and stuff disturb you, go into a quiet place and read, or maybe read at night, because that's what I used to do when I was younger. I actually have the opposite problem now, because when I do read, I can't pay attention to anything else. From where did you get the Secret History book, and where do you find books like that in nearby Colombo? Okay, so I found the Secret History at a JR bookshop. There was a bookshop near my university, but it closed down, so that branch is not there anymore. But I found the book there, and I would say some really good places to find books is like JR bookshop, CGA books, and Sarasavi. Those are like the 3 places that I constantly go to look for books. Also, MD Gunasena, I think, also has a pretty decent collection. I'm not entirely sure though, but yeah, those are the places that I would look for. You guys are absolutely insane. Why has somebody asked me if I've read Haunting Adeline and that it's like a really innocent book? First of all, I'm not gonna read Haunting Adeline. I've heard enough about it on TikTok, and that's just not like a book for me. You know, I personally find it very uncomfortable to read books like that. I have. Don't get me wrong. Like, I grew up reading Wattpad and AO3, and I think the difference between, you know, like when you're 14, 15 reading like 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 reading Wattpad AO3 versus reading something like Haunting Adeline at like 13, 14 is because most of the shit that's on Wattpad and AO3 is written by kids. You know what I mean? And we know it's mostly kids on that app. But the thing with things like Haunting Adeline is that it's written by grown as people that literally market their books for kids, and I don't think that's fair, because it's smart, and there's, you know what I mean, like I don't think kids should be exposed to that type of stuff, especially if it's an adult reading it. Like if it's kids writing it for kids, that there's a difference, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's okay. There are some things that I've read on Wattpad and AO3 that I will never be able to unsee, that I will never be able to forget, and that's a different trauma story. But yeah, books like Haunting Adeline just don't sit right with me, and that's my personal opinion. Don't come for me. What is the best movie franchise in your opinion that's based on a book series? I'm gonna go ahead and say Harry Potter, and it really pisses me off that there's going to be a remake of that. Like, there's so much you could do with the Harry Potter. Like, literally, you don't even have to look into like the entirety of the Harry Potter world. You could literally make a spin-off show about like the war during Hogwarts, like what people like Neville and Dean and Fred and George, like what these people did. You could make a spin-off show about Fred and George. Like, I would be dead interested to watch that. You could make a spin-off show about the Marauders, Peter, Sirius, Remus, and James. Like, there's so much you could do with the Harry Potter franchise. And the fact that you choose to go and remake the one thing that doesn't need to be remade, it pisses me off. Okay, Samyanti is about to come out. Oh wait, that's all the questions. Surprisingly, okay. Wow. Thank you for the questions. Most of them were really, really interesting. Thank you guys. I had a lot of fun answering those questions, actually. I have a lot of complicated thoughts on book talk. I think because of, look, at first, when around the time book talk started getting popular, there were like a lot of pretty good book recommendations, I would say, that were mainstream. One of them being The Secret History. That's how I discovered that book, so I'm thankful for book talk. I discovered The Song of Achilles through book talk. Books like Circe, Crime and Punishment. I didn't even know these authors existed, so it's really great that we have that level of access. But also, I feel like book talk has just stripped away the love of reading, you know what I mean? Like, now I feel like publishers know that literally anyone would buy smut. So now the publishing industry has just become like, it just keeps dishing out really bad love stories that are not even love stories to begin with. Like, sometimes I read a book from the romance section and I'm like, are you sure these people genuinely like each other? Because it doesn't sound like it. And I don't know, I think it's really harmful, especially for young readers, because, like, you know what I mean? Like, if someone who was 13 read Lolita, it's very easy to believe that that's normal, but that's not. Like, I haven't read Lolita, but I know of the contents of that book. I refuse to read the book entirely until I get my hands on a physical copy. But you understand what I'm saying? Like, I know what the book is about, and because I know what the book is about, I feel like I'm sorry, I don't know how to. I'm very passionate about this. Okay, it's just if a 13-year-old were to pick out Lolita from a shelf, she or he would be like, oh, this is fine, but it's not. And that's the thing. There are some books that should not be for kids because kids can't understand what's okay and what's not, because kids need to be spoon-fed information. And most of the books in, I would say, romance, spoon-feed information to kids that don't need to be spoon-fed to kids. You know what I mean? Like, God, you know what? Like, I'm done. I'm so done with pretending like I'm not mad about things like this. Like, I feel like I'm justified in my anger, you know what I mean? Why? And I don't understand why, like, I feel like I have to hide the fact that I'm mad about the fact that the publishing industry has become this hellhole. Like, there are so many talented writers out there that find it impossible to break out because people like me don't write romance. Like, it's impossible. Literally every writing course these days is about how to write romance. That's not what I want. That's not what I want to write about. And, like, I don't understand why I have to hide the fact that I'm mad about things. By the way, why is that even a thing? Why do we feel the need to hide our emotions? Why do we feel the need to hide the fact that we feel things? Like, I'm tired, okay? I'm tired of pretending like I'm not mad about things. I'm tired of pretending like things don't hurt my feelings. I'm tired of pretending like some things don't make me happy. And I'm tired of pretending like I'm not passionate about things, because I am. Things make me passionate. I am passionate about things. Oh my God. And a thing that I'm passionate about is writing and giving authors exposure, and there are a lot of authors that don't get exposure because the publishing industry is just shit. It's run by like money hungry people that don't care about the art of writing, and the only people that do get accepted to like have, you know, these book contracts, like the people who do get accepted to work with a huge publishing industry, majority of the time are people who write shitty stories that include like 90 pages of smut, literally. And it makes me mad because I see every single day these independent authors on TikTok, on social media, that like work their ass off to like get their work out into the public, but nobody will pick it up just because it's not romance. It makes me so mad. Like, where has the passion gone? What has writing become? Humans are artistic creatures. We are meant to create things. We are meant to put our heart and soul into things. We are meant to create. We were built to create. Man-made things are so important because they are man-made. Man made these things. Man put all our effort into making this thing. So why do we discard it as useless? That's such a dumb rhetoric to have. I don't understand. I don't understand. And yeah, it makes me mad. It really does. Because God, I feel like I'm really thankful for the exposure that social media has given, because I found a lot of like underrated like musicians and artists and writers because of that. But also because of this level of exposure, the wrong people get the exposure, you know what I mean? And I'm also someone who has exposure on social media, so I'm assuming maybe that makes me someone who also has the wrong type of exposure. But you understand what I'm saying, right? Like, as soon as a corporation realizes that this one person can bring them money in, they're gonna use that person and they're gonna dish out such half-assed rip-off content that like that people will buy just because like I don't even know, dude. It's really messed up what the publishing industry has become. And you can ask any like starting author about it. You can. I'm just so mad. I'm so mad. I really did go on a rant there, didn't I? But yeah, whatever. It's just, there are a lot of things that make me angry, and you know what? It's fine that I'm mad, because the fact that I'm mad means that I'm passionate, and I'm passionate about writing. I'm passionate about books, and that's not something anyone can ever take away from me. So yeah, screw it. I'm mad. Boo-hoo. There's nothing I can do about it because it's my feelings. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end this episode before I go on another rant, because I feel like I might as well. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you guys don't think, I mean, I am crazy. Okay, I'm crazy. I'm tired of pretending that I'm not. I'm crazy. But yeah, anyways, just thank you for watching this episode. If you like this episode, what is this ending coming to? But anyways, if you like this episode, give it a like, share it with somebody. I would appreciate it if you could subscribe. It shows your support for me. And if you have any thoughts to share in the comments section, I'd love to hear them. If you have any book recommendations or feelings about books that you've read, share them. I would love to hear them. Again, this is a safe space. I read all your comments, even though I may not reply to all of them. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this. If you want me to talk about anything, just send me a DM on my Instagram, or just, again, leave it in the comments below. I love you guys. Take care. Please do take care. Stand for what's right and be a kind person. I love you guys. I will see you in another one. Bye.